Welcome back. They've been scamming us for years. There's no way all of the daycares, all of the childcare, all of that is all fake from Ohio to Minnesota to Virginia to, it's so rampant and widespread amongst one community. There's no way that's all fraud. But then everything they used to show us on TV about Somalia is real. They send you all these videos and pictures of starving kids with flies around them, and they're so sick and they don't have any food. But the women seem to be having a lot of sex. So, how are you having sex on an empty stomach? Nobody knows. I don't know. But all of this was fake too, staged. We've seen other ethnic groups stage fake events to generate American sympathy so that you will not question their actions and their behavior when they're caught doing other things in the future. I'm sure we can all think of multiple examples. This whole Somalian fraud thing is just one of them. Sally Struthers walked so Nick Shirley could run. Let's go ahead and take a listen. He was on Patrick Beck-David's podcast today.
Social media does today. 23 years old, you go and find out for yourself. You're not waiting on ABC, CNN, CBS, any of these guys. You go ask questions. After asking questions yesterday, I believe was it HHS, Rob, that came out yesterday? If I'm not mistaken, they came out yesterday and they stopped $185 million of funding to Minneapolis because of the video you posted. So what?
Do you know how much money almost $200 million is? You know, the craziest part is that there are no Americans that can get approved for any of this. It's always African scammers or scammers from some other part of the world that can come here to the United States. They know how to get the grants. They know how to set up the facilities properly. But it's amazing. How are they able to set up the facilities in a manner where there's never an inspection, where there's no guardrails, where there's someone who goes around to check, to verify? Yet, when you're an American business owner operating, they're sending different agencies to kind of pop up on you and check on you every month. Every month, when you're an American business owner, you're used to being scrutinized. But yet, these foreigners can come here. No one ever goes to knock on these doors to check on the children or the progress where they're sending this money. That's something we have to ask more questions about. Why is it that only Americans are held to certain standards? It doesn't make sense, but let's continue.
Watch this, folks. This is a byproduct of what Nick Shirley did on December 26th. Go ahead, Rob.
Hello, I'm HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. I'm here with Assistant Secretary Alex Adams. Alex oversees the Administration for Children and Families.
Alex needs to be fucking fired. For one thing, why did it take a 23-year-old YouTuber to go to one of these cities and in 1 to 2 days expose what people have been complaining about for 10 to 15 years? So now, because there's social media and pressure, now Alex is going to act. Why did not Alex do this a week or 2 weeks ago? Why didn't he fly to Minnesota? Why didn't he send agents to Minnesota to investigate this when the first 100 people were making complaints from the Minnesota state government? In my opinion, Alex needs to be fired. This is deliberate oversight. There's no way you just missed it. This was on purpose.
Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
Millions? No. We're looking at billions. Some estimates put us at a low trillion in 15 years of money that has made it over to Somalia from the United States American taxpayers. That means that there's never been any oversight whatsoever. There's never been anyone that went to verify to check these addresses. No one's checking the paperwork, and they're not even doing any audits at all. Not one audit in 15 years. Make it make sense. This is deliberate.
Office ACF provides Minnesota $185 million in child care funds each year. That money should be helping 19,000 American children, including toddlers and infants. Any dollar stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children. Yesterday, I spoke directly with the director of the Minnesota Child Care Services Office. She could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud are isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide.
So wait a minute. You talk to her. Okay, there's only 50 states. If you're over all of this, you're not talking to all 50. There's only fucking 50 of these states. There's only 50. So there's 50 people for you to talk to. And you're just now finding out that they're unsure about fraud in their state when it comes to your specialty. You should be fired immediately.
Today, we have taken 3 direct actions against the blatant fraud that seems to be rampant in Minnesota. First, I've activated our Defend the Spend system for all ACF child care payments across America. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment.
You can doctor photo evidence. You can doctor a short video. You need to have people that are periodically popping up. How about this? The same way they do enforcement for a smoke shop in Los Angeles, how they send random agents to show up throughout the day and try to make purchases to see if you're going to ask them for an ID or not. That minimal level of, let's say, I don't know, scrutiny, or the minimum level of at least verifying that these people are doing the right thing. Why is that not applied to an industry that is literally being paid out hundreds of millions annually? You should be able to send agents to all of these facilities every week that are like, hey, how do I register a kid for childcare? How do I register a kid that has autism here? And there should be everything lined up where they have an intake. If they don't, they're shut down and it's fraud. Why don't you have that in place? As an American, I just assumed because they do it to all these other American-owned businesses. A friend of mine owns a small smoke shop. They send agents in every week to see if they can buy flavored tobacco from him without needing an ID. And they'll send an old ass man in there with a gray beard. They won't even do that in Minnesota. They won't do that in Ohio. They're not doing that in Virginia. But if you're an American, they will literally try to set you up so they can fine you and send you to court and basically put you out of business. The minimal level of scrutiny or adding some little safeguards, they would have exposed all this and shut all this stuff down. It wouldn't have been open for a month. They purposely relaxed the regulations on these people because, well, it's always financial. They were all getting kickbacks. Everybody was making money hand over fist. And you know why they like foreigners? Because, my family's, I'm a foreigner. We play ball. Like the mob. In Chicago in the 30s, they would bring people from the old country over here. They follow orders. They play ball. They're loyal. But see, Americans, even if you give them money for their vote, they can still say, yeah, but I'm just going to vote for the other guy still. And you can't do anything about it. But when people come here from other countries and you tell them they have to do something, they're going to do it because they don't want to get sent back. They don't want to get in trouble. They're trying to just do whatever they're told. They're loyal. The people that played ball have been working with these people in local and maybe, of course, obviously the state government as well. They've all been getting paid off of this. Everybody. And I mean, I'm talking billions, not millions, billions.
You can stop it right there.
Second.
So the idea is $185 million stop because you independently went out there, created this content, exposed it to everybody, and then allegedly, was it today that CNN came after you, or was it yesterday?
Yeah, today they put a hit piece out on me.
And when did they interview? When did CNN come and interview?
Yesterday.
Yesterday they did.
Yesterday I showed up at Quality Learning Center.
Is this the one?
Yes.
So this is you. You show up. You're in Minnesota yesterday.
Yes.
At
Hey, thank you, B Sting, for tuning in. I appreciate you being here.
the Quality Learning Center. We got to say it correctly. By the way, his sweater he's got on. If you guys want to,
It's crazy. The people that are running this daycare where they're saying they're teaching kids, they couldn't even spell the word learning correct in English because you know why? They don't give a damn. There was nobody coming and auditing them. They were just getting free money, and all they had to do was just pay the kickbacks and keep the spread, keep the VIG. And they're not even the ones in charge. There are overlords above them that are way back in Somalia who they're loading up these suitcases and dropping off money to. And here we are just sitting here as Americans. Many of us have struggling businesses because we have zero assistance from the government. And guess what? We don't want to lean on the government. But then we're finding out that the government is really just a piggy bank with no cork on the top of it. And you can just take money out as long as your hands don't have red, white, and blue bloods running underneath the skin. Anybody from any other foreign country can easily scam the American government, American system, USAID, etc. But you never see Americans able to do it directly. These are always foreigners. How is it that there's zero oversight for foreigners, but there's nothing but oversight when it comes to Americans? The double standard means this is deliberate. This is not accidental. It's like some Americans and some foreigners. No, it's always all foreigners, which should be impossible. How do they know our system better than us? How are they able to scam our system and we can't even protect it? This is deliberate.
purchase the sweater. We're going to put the link below as well to the Quality Learning Center. It's becoming a hot commodity. Rob, let's make sure.
Yeah, buy the merch. I'm buying that sweater today.
Put the link below as well to support what he's doing here. But here's CNN. It doesn't look like they're happy for you doing their work. When they first came up to you, were they friendly? Were they nice to you? What was the approach that they took?
Yeah, the lady came up to me very friendly, and then she kept asking me these questions. I'm like, ma'am, you're defending fraud. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the issue wasn't what time I showed up to the daycare. The issue is that this building right here is receiving $1.9 million, and it's not even operating. And they're showing face right now while they're literally shuffling in kids, while the commissioner of children is saying the daycare was closed last week.
There's no way in a million years they would let an American with a fake daycare receive even they wouldn't even let you receive $50,000 without scheduling a raid if there was any signs there was even one or two less children than you're recording per day. We know this because everybody knows somebody who goes to childcare, and they all have systems in place to make sure that they're not being frauded, and they're struggling. A lot of them are struggling to stay open, but yet these illegals, these immigrants, zero oversight, no children, and they don't even care to make sure that the signs are spelled properly in English because they know nobody's going to show up. This means the corruption is from the top down. They knew there would be no law enforcement, nobody would get caught, and it's been going on for so long. They just figured it was legal. And that's why their community is so tight-knit, because they don't want you to talk to an American and accidentally tell them your hustle. They've been hustling us all these years.
Pretty wild. Okay, so play this clip, Rob. Go ahead.
This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley back at a daycare.
What makes you a MAGA YouTuber? So basically, against fraud means you're MAGA. So if you're pro-fraud, that means you're a Democrat. Like I've always said, Democrats are pro-crime, pro-lawlessness, anti-family, anti-law and order, pro-chaos, and pro-destruction. That's exactly what she's saying in this video, because if you're about accountability and exposing fraud and protecting our taxpayer money, that makes you MAGA. Well, then that's why I'm wearing my MAGA hat then. So be it.
In Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say this is a left or right issue, but no, fraud is fraud. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video released over the weekend.
You know what I respect about Nick Shirley? He's a one-man army. Most of the time he's holding his phone, he's holding his camera by himself, no security, and he's out there with potentially dangerous animals. I've seen him in Portland. I've seen him in DC. I've seen him in Chicago. I've seen Nick Shirley everywhere. But this is the biggest expose he's done because of the amount of money involved. And I'm seeing these Somalian men surrounding him. Luckily, they're not American blacks. They're Africans. They're not built like us. They're not, you're not going to worry about that. But still, he's alone and he's going out there and he's doing God's work. He should be fully funded, fully supported, and fully protected to continue. But yet he went out there on his own. He's been doing this for a while, but he's just now blowing up, which is why we all have to support him and we all have to assist him. That's why we have to make videos and promote what he's doing, share the content, and we have to keep the mission going.
And in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President Jake.
Did this bimbo said he said? No, he's not the one looking at the numbers. It's not just the people, but the state government and the federal government said. You fucking idiot.
E.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds.
And basically, if these doors are locked from the inside, that means that if there was a fire, these kids couldn't get out. That's why there's no kids inside. There's nowhere to do an intake. There's no receptionist. These are all fake stage businesses. Think about it. We call these drug fronts. You know how you go to a certain place and you'll see a strip mall and they're like, yeah, this is a bustling, busy, generating money. And you go there and it's deserted and there's all these closed shops. And you're like, they're doing money laundering here. They're money laundering for drugs or for traffickers or the cartel, whatever. And these are basically just staged businesses. This is the same thing. This is just the Somalian mafia, and nobody wants to call it that because they're too advanced, which is insane. But like I said, they came a long way from scamming us with these videos of people in Africa and making us feel sorry for, well, where are the men? These children women don't just spontaneously give birth to kids. Men have to plant them in there, right? So they're showing us these videos, but there's hundreds of billions going to this exact country. So that means all of this is fake and staged. It's all fake. All the charity work, all the tears, all the flies on those fucking kids, it was all fake and staged. Sally Struthers to Nick Shirley. You talk about course correction. It's crazy. Wow.
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a daycare.
Well, look, Busta, you can go on your page and you can talk about how there's a white man that did $1 billion in fraud. That's funny. And your argument about this fraud being exposed is, but what about a white person? That's the most idiotic response to, this is why no one takes you people seriously. That's the most idiotic response to a crime. Well, this person did a crime too. So that's all you want. You just want to be able to commit crimes because you think other people commit crimes. That means you have no respect for our laws, you don't have no respect for our nation, and you're living in the wrong place, in my opinion. And yes, 18 billion. 18 billion. That's on the low end. That's on the low end. Remember, we haven't even started the audit yet. There's no Doge audit yet of this whole network. Wait until it's exposed. It's going to be far north of 18 billion. The evidence is there to prosecute. Why aren't they? They had 5,000 agents for January 6th for trespassing charges, even though that's the people's house and it was open to the public that day. They had 5,000 field agents that went all over the country. They even went to Alaska and they harassed a woman who looked like a lady that was there on January 6th, an older lady in her 70s. They sent senior citizens to prison. I'm sorry, if this administration doesn't get serious soon, I mean, it's not like they can lose our support and we're going to support someone else, but they'll just lose our support because that means they gave up on us too. If that's the case, then they're no better. If we don't start seeing arrests, if we don't start seeing progress, they are absolutely no better. Are you serious? What do you mean? Where am I getting my information? I'm fucking reading it to you. Are you deaf? I'm getting the information from the reports. They're literally reporting on it. Can you not read? Are you illiterate? Now, if you're illiterate and you're wondering where am I getting information from because you can't read it yourself, then obviously you can hear because you're listening to me speak. So listen to the information. The source of the information is literally verified here. They are now doing audits. They are now going to the locations and verifying that there are no real businesses there. This is the information. You go and you check in person. It's called journalism. Now it's going to be up to law enforcement to make arrests. The problem is with these fucking immigrants and illegals, you don't know who they are. They're all named Mr. Muhammad. And guess what? He can change his name to Mr. Abdul Muhammad, Mr. Rahim Muhammad, and he can literally muddy the waters around his identity, and you won't know who to arrest because he's not from here. No birth certificate. There's no social security card. You don't know who he is. That's the problem with letting in people from these other countries. You really don't know who they are. See, when it comes to an American, right? You can be arrested. You know who the American is. You can follow them back on social media. You can also go through their criminal record. You can see who their parents were, if their parents were born. We have records. These other countries don't keep records and they don't share them with us. We have no idea who these people are. So that's another reason why they're able to skate around law enforcement and use somebody else's ID who looks like them and fly out of the country, then fly back with somebody else's passport. Remember, these are countries where inbreeding is a thing. It's a part of their society. So do they look similar? Yes. Can the average American tell them apart? No. You're not going to look at somebody and say, well, he looks like this type of Somali, but not that. You're not going to know. And if you profile them and look at them for too long, they're going to call you racist. You have no idea that this is how this scam stuff goes. You don't know who these people really are. Nobody knows. And again, they can muddy the waters around their identity. So they can always go to court and say, well, you think that's him, but what if that's his brother? What if that's his cousin? And then a jury might consider, well, I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt it's him. And then he's back on the streets. That's how they get away with all this. Yeah, but see, Joe, I think you might be, the odds of you being a pedo rapist are higher than Trump because you can't even name the kid that he raped. Name a kid that Trump did something to. What's the kid's name? If you can't name it, now you're lying. And if that's the case, you're projecting. One thing you learn about people on the left, these weirdo Democrats, is that they always accuse you of what they're guilty of doing. So if you're saying that about Trump, it's because you're doing it also. There is no 1.5 million MAGA nursery fraud, you idiot. There's no such thing as a MAGA nursery. He said Justin Bieber. He said basically Trump's a believer. That's okay. You know what? These comments are getting too funny. Trump never had sex with Diddy. You know what's funny, bro? Everybody wants Diddy to be gay. I don't know why you guys you guys like black gays. You guys want everybody to be gay. That's not the case, bro. You're not going to say, well, Diddy and Trump had sex, bro. Even if they're two grown men, you're a Democrat, you're gay too. So now you don't like, so you're using gay as a slur or using gay as a compliment. I thought you guys loved the gays. The gays. You guys are, bro, listen, we're getting off the topic. Let's go back to Nick Shirley and these rogue Sally Struthers. Somalians. We got to focus on this, okay? Remember, they showed us these videos and they told us that these people are starving. They're covered in feces. There's flies everywhere. It smells like shit. They're ashy. There's no fucking fathers. You know why? Because the fathers are all over here in the United States running leering centers that they can't spell.
Exception.
No, they every daycare is locked.
Their doors are locked.
And so, okay,
Bro, shut the fuck up. All daycares are not locked. A daycare is not a fortress. Then how do the kids get in? If the daycare is locked up and the door's never open, how do kids leave? Okay, there's obviously a door that doesn't have a lock. And it's some random American black lady trying to excuse it. Lady, you're not even benefiting from the fraud. Shut the hell up. Somalians don't deal with American blacks. Nobody deals with American blacks. You go back to go find a bottle of Old English, smoke some crack. Get the hell out of here. This is not your conversation. This is between Americans and Somalians. The American blacks, you guys go do something else. You guys have no idea. You guys aren't benefiting from this fraud. You don't have a dog in this fight. Mind your business. Stay in your lane. You guys have no business in Somalian business or American business. What are you back there in your fucking peanut gallery? Girl, lady, go sit down.
bring up a fair point. Then why can't they actually give me information how to enroll a child?
Federal law enforcement has been investigating fraud in Minnesota for several years. Both Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel said on social media they've indicted dozens of defendants. DHS has posted multiple videos of agents they say are conducting a massive fraud investigation.
Do you think that federal law enforcement hasn't done enough? I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on.
So funny. They're defending
for
Trump now.
years.
And why did I show up one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children. They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own
Very
analysis.
fair.
Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are
She's
a legitimate
validating your point.
business.
Have you?
She's literally a CNN hit piece, little wannabe Barbie, and she just verified by trying to prove him wrong, but she did it on video. She ended up verifying his argument and proving that he's correct. And then she's like, yeah, I called one place and they told me they're legit. What do you think they're going to tell you? Yeah, hi, this is the daycare fraud hotline. What are you, dumb? They're not going to tell you that they're fraudulent. It's like the threshold for fraud changes for immigrants, and it's the completely different rules for Americans. That's my main issue. I don't like the double standards. You know what I always tell people? If the government in the United States was kicking back Americans because they were, invading other countries, taking oil and resources, and every couple of months you get a check from the government, saying, hey, just for staying loyal. I'll be honest, we Americans would turn a blind eye to a lot of the stuff our government does in our name. But when you're telling me we benefit zero from it visually that we can actually see, but illegals and immigrants from all over the world can come over here and just siphon and just take our resources and send them back to where they're from, and there's no questions asked, that just pisses us off, because it means that everyone else is in on the scam. And the reason we're not in on the scam is because we're the ones being scammed. See, it's our tax dollars that are being sent over there. We used to think all of our money just went to the military industrial complex. Wrong. I thought our money went to welfare. Wrong. Our money's going to literal Somalians. The people that Sally Struthers were begging us to spend 15 cents a day. Bro, I remember being a kid and they're like, and Michael Jackson, man, we are the world. Bro, they've been scamming us since we are the world. Ever since Elton John and Mick Jagger got on that fucking stage with Paula Abdul, they've been scamming the dog shit out of us Americans. I'm tired of it. I don't want to see it. All I remember, I used to have nightmares of these fucking flies all over these. And I'm sitting there watching these videos. They were scamming us back then. That was all staged. And action. And then cut. And then afterwards, they clean the flies off the kids. The little African kids have British accents, and they're asking for their tea and crumpets. And they're like, what do you think about my character? It was cool, right? And they're like, yeah, it was cool. And then they put on their robes, and then they get in their fucking Lamborghinis that are child size, and they just drive off into the sunset with our American fucking donations. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And I've seen these British actors. They look just like these goddamn Somalians. They are robbing us blind. Everything. And I do blame the politicians because they're puppets. It's like anybody can become a politician. And guess what? We don't know anything about our politicians. You elect them the same way you choose the prom king. I think I like his name. Bro, I remember I went to go vote for Trump. And they were like, yeah, just go down ballot. So I'm looking and I'm reading. I don't recognize one name of any judges, anybody else. And I'm just like, Republican. That's stupid. That's dumb. Why don't we know who these people are? Think about it. If I can sit here with a camera and talk to people, so can politicians. I should be able, if I can interact with you guys in the comments, and you guys can ask me questions, and you guys know my thoughts on stuff, why don't we have transparency like this for our politicians? Why isn't it demanded? Remember, we're in the information age. This is not 2005, 2010, it's 2025 now. We can talk to everybody at any time of the day. This is a makeshift studio in one of my guest bedrooms. Anybody can do this. But you're right, it is the politicians. They sold us up the river, and now we're going to have to hold them accountable by primarying them out. But the problem is nobody wants to really be a politician. Like, the thing is, you don't want a politician that wants to be a politician. You want somebody who doesn't want the job, and they're kind of being forced into it because they have to. But we have to find somebody. We have to find a lot of somebodies. People who don't want money. People who don't value money. People that aren't just greedy succubus. We need people that are doing this because they love our country and because they have children that they don't want to grow up in Americanistan. They want their kids to grow up in America. The America that they grew up in. I don't know. It seems like that's getting hard and hard for us to find. You're right, Pryor. It is political theater. It is political theater. It's all smoke and mirrors, you know, and we're sitting here, we're just watching the show. And now the theater it's like somebody just turned on the lights in the middle of the show. You got people like Nick Shirley making videos like this. You got guys like me that are joking about the issue, but we're literally spreading the content out to millions of people, however many people we can get to watch it. This is important. This is the ground. This is the grassroots level. This is the problem with the internet that they can't control. So we have to keep going. We have to inspire other people to want to keep doing this. But first things first, everybody, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you have to be on board with America first. If you're America first, then that means Americans first. That means no matter what we disagree on, as Americans, we can both agree, fuck these illegals and these migrants and these immigrants. They are they're not even 10th on the list of priorities. They're like somewhere in the hundreds. That's on the list of priorities. Of 1 to 10, they're in the hundreds. We have to at least be able to agree that we are not making them a priority. Our disagreements and our problems between us as Americans, that's between Americans. They have to be off the list. We have to at least be able to agree on that. If your priorities are illegals, find out what country they came from and you go there and stay the hell there. Get rid of your American citizenship, repatriate yourself, and move on with your life. But if you're going to be in America, if you're going to be in the United States, if you're an American, we have to be able to agree on America first. I'm sorry, there's no negotiating. Nobody ever said that to me. Nobody ever said I'm 1/8 of a human. What the hell are you talking about? Well, that doesn't make any sense. And if you feel like somebody said that about you, why do you live in the United States, Joe? Why don't you go to a country where you're going to be a whole human? Why are you choosing to live here under racism and oppression? You know, those airplanes, airports are like open to the public, right? You can leave at any time. You don't have to live in the United States. If you feel like the country is racist, if you feel like you're only 1/8 of a human and the people here are terrible, Why do you wake up every single day and choose to live here? Because remember, living here is a choice. You can choose to go live some fucking where else. Why are you here, Joe? Let me put it in the comments. Why are you here? Send all Black Americans to Africa. If they are not America first, if they hate white people, if they hate the Constitution, if they feel this country is racist and oppressive, absolutely send them back to where they're going to be happiest. There are a lot of Black people that get on the internet every single day and talk about how they want to extinguish all white life in their children. I watch the videos. I see them. I literally do videos and report on them. We don't need that. If you're waking up and you're that unhappy and you're spreading that type of violent discontent, if that's what's in your spirit, repatriate yourself and free yourself. Why subjugate yourself to Trump and ICE and racism? Why don't you just get on an airplane and buy a ticket to fucking Ghana? There's 300 million people in Nigeria. Go beat 300 million in one. Then why did you suggest they go back to Africa if they're not from there? You guys got to make up your mind. You can't be an African American if you're not from Africa. So what are you? Are you an African American or are you just an American? If you put Africa in front of your name, that means you're from Africa. You can't say that. You guys are confusing. You guys can. That's why they call you a color instead of a person, because you're confused. When somebody says you're a color, that means you're confused. That doesn't mean you're not a people. You can't even get out of the country being a Black. You can't even get out of the country being an African American, because there's no such country as African America. You're an American on your passport. You can't even leave the country with that bullshit. That's why I'm like, these people are confusing. That's why nobody takes them seriously. And now we got so many illegals here, you don't have to pander to them. You can just ignore them. Exactly. You're an American. It's hard to leave something that you are a part. How are you a part of racism and oppression? If it's that bad, go be a part of something else. Go choose to be, you're a part of Africa too. Go over there. Go make Africa great again. You're still MAGA, right? Make Africa great again. Go make Africa great again. If you're going to complain about America, go somewhere else. Don't complain. Change where you live. Don't stay here. They're not all Americans. Everybody's not the same type of American. Just because you speak English and you have citizenship doesn't necessarily mean you're an American. There are people that speak English, have citizenship, but if Russian tanks rolled down Flatbush Boulevard in New York, they would jump on top of those tanks and start twerking and start pointing out white people and telling the Russians who to go arrest. These people are mental. They're not all Americans. They were just born here. Doesn't make them an American. They have no pride in the country. They don't believe in the Constitution. They would never put their hands over their heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't have any allegiance to the United States or any country. They're just confused. Their sole purpose in life is to sow discontent daily and complain about everything. They're not actually contributing to anything. They're a part of the degradation of society. They're not literally trying to make it stronger. So you can't, just because citizenship and born here doesn't mean you're an American. You got to ask them, what type of American are you? What kind? That day will come eventually. If you were born here, I would stay here, but not if you're unhappy. If you think that America says you're 1/8 of a person, go somewhere where you're going to be a whole person. Don't subjugate yourself and force yourself to stay here. If you feel like you're just you're trash here. If you think everybody hates you and you hate yourself, go somewhere else. Don't change, don't complain, change. It's like a job. Yeah, you help build the company, but if the culture of the company changes and you don't like it, go build another company. Go work somewhere else. I can live anywhere. I'm a 50-year-old retired athlete for 5 lifetimes. I've done it all. Yeah, sure, Joe. Sure, sounds good, Joe. But yet you're still in the United States, and no matter what, your tax dollars still support Trump and our agenda. The only way you can prove that you're not pro-Trump is get the fuck out. Go somewhere else. Go live somewhere else. Or you're a Trump supporter. As long as you're in the United States, you're a Trump supporter. Think about it. What do they say about people in Germany? Oh, well, if you stayed in Germany, you didn't leave. You must have supported Hitler. Same goes for anywhere you choose to live. Your tax dollars are still supporting the United States and whatever agenda or regime. Under Biden, I moved to another country. I only came back to the United States in September of last year because it looked like Kamala wasn't going to win. If not, I would have stayed gone. I didn't want to live in a country that was actually ran by an actual pedophile, where Democrats have passed laws to protect pedophiles. You talking about Trump, but you didn't say shit about Gavin Newsom and Senate Bill 145. because you're a clown. That's the best way to put it.
You've seen that the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside.
Minnesota Republicans say despite the new focus from the Trump administration, they have been sounding the alarm on fraud for years.
How is it that your own state government has been screaming about fraud for years and nobody did anything about it? So if your state government can't do anything about it, then who can? Because the orders come from the top down. Who's going to tell law enforcement to go make arrests and do these investigations? So that means that there are people in government that were talking about fraud, and there were other people in government that was covering it up. And it gets like the two just canceled each other out. You got to find those who were covering up the fraud, who were benefiting from the fraud, and they must be purged from all governments. And that's why these Democrats are such a problem. They're everywhere else first besides America and Americans.
We have talked about fraud. We have gotten stories. We've tried to push this forward every way that we can.
At the date.
So this is yesterday in Minnesota.
Yeah, yesterday in Minnesota.
Wow. And you went back to Minnesota because you just told me that you're working on a part 2 yourself.
Yeah, because there's a lot more fraud.
How much more did you find?
Oh, we found a lot more businesses that don't exist. There's millions of dollars. We found daycares with more $1 million daycares. I mean, there's literally hundreds of daycares receiving millions of dollars in Minnesota at this moment as we speak.
So from the first one, you guys were over $100 million of fraud that you found, right? Mm-hmm. With the second one, now the recent one that you were there yesterday, how much more did you guys find yesterday?
I have to do all the numbers, which I'll do when I do all my editing, but at least another $10 million.
Another $10 million. Okay, so on the other side, while you're doing this, what caused you, and we see this man named David, right? We keep seeing this man named David, who I think yesterday, he said, if you want to, I'll put $100,000 for anybody that can prove any of this wrong, because this is government document. How did you and David, Rob, is this the clip where he says that?
Yep.
Do you want to play this clip of David?
Okay, by the way, guys, you know what? Let's go talk to my friend, Arthur the AI. Let's go ahead and humor this guy, Joe. Hey, Arthur, are you there?
Absolutely. I'm here.
Hey, do me a favor. Can you tell me about a girl named Katie Johnson and her connection to Donald Trump? And then tell me about that case and how it proceeded. Give us the details about that, if you don't mind.
Certainly. In a formal context, I can tell you that the name Katie Johnson is associated with a lawsuit filed in 2016, in which a woman using that pseudonym alleged that Donald Trump had assaulted her when she was a minor. The case was initially filed in California and then refiled in New York. However, the lawsuit was dropped later that year and no further proceedings took place. Please let me know if you need a more detailed overview.
So what that means is that there was no evidence and we don't know her real name. And in the United States, you have a right to be able to face your accuser. Then the case was withdrawn. So there was no evidence. There was no conviction. There was no nothing. So Joe, you're a fucking lying piece of shit clown. And the odds of you attacking some woman and you're projecting that onto Trump because you accuse people of what you're guilty of are 100 times higher than Trump actually being guilty of anything. This right here, actually, when you look up the details of these cases, it explains it all, but it explains that you're a joke. You're a clown. And that's why we just brought it up right now, just so I could just, throw some egg on your face. Now let's get back to exposing fraud, shall we?
Understood. I'll know that you're expressing a strong opinion.
Anybody want to take me up? You $100,000 if you $100,000 disprove my information. If you can
Man, $100,000 can buy a lot of corn and flour for your Somalian village. Why aren't you jumping on his offer that if you can disprove any of his fraud allegations, he'll give you $100,000, Mr. African? You can take this back to your village and you can feed the children over there. You can go ahead and you can go over there right now and you can save all these Somalians right now. You can take that 100,000. This can do a lot of good, but you won't jump on that 100,000 because all of that is fake and all of this is fucking fake and you're a fraudster.
My information. 100,000. 100,000. 100,000. Page by page. Going page by page. Keep going. Come on, girl. Just keep your video on it. Okay? And just.
Now, she's, for one thing, you don't know if she was 13. There was no case. There was no evidence. There's no police report. You're making this up. You don't know anything. You don't know. There's no details about the case. There was no case. It was a law. It was a civil lawsuit, nothing criminal, and it was withdrawn. There were no details. It's just wild accusations. You can sue a ham sandwich. It doesn't mean you're going to win. You can't prove your case. There's no evidence. Anybody can lie and make up a story. What can you prove? There is no proof. You're just making that up. And everything that you say about somebody with no proof is literally something that you're guilty of 90-something% of the time. That's how it goes. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. Humans are creatures of habit. When you accuse somebody of being something, that's generally something you're guilty of, and you feel a certain type of way, and you're hoping you can find camaraderie with other sickos. You're wishing you could include Trump into your pool of bullshit, but he's not in there. The evidence doesn't show it. There's more evidence against you than there is of Trump.
Screenshot it while you're going. Let me know when you got it.
All those people out there defending the fraud, and then he gives them the option.
We need. They're defending the fraud.
Yes.
They're not on your side.
No.
How many of those people are on your side right there?
None of those people you're hearing in the background.
Just you and David and the camera guy.
Just me and Dave. Yeah, I was my cameraman.
So who's recording you there?
That's somebody doing a live stream. That's
from them. That's not even yours. That's that Kadra Abshir that's recording you.
Yes.
Got it. So they're recording you, and he's offering $100,000 to go prove if any of these things are wrong.
Yes.
So how did you and David get linked up?
David messaged me on Instagram, and out of the hundreds of DMs I get, I just opened David's, and he had all the proof, because I've known about the fraud happening for so long in Minnesota. Since back in June, I've known about the fraud, but it's hard for me to go out and get all the information because they make it very hard to get the information. Luckily, David had somebody inside the Capitol who's been leaking him all the numbers, leaking him all the information.
Somebody from the Capitol?
Yes.
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
So somebody earlier asked, where does the evidence come from? Well, it's actually being generated from whistleblowers who work within the Democrat Party of the Minnesota government. And the reason you know they're part of the Democrat Party is because they have to be whistleblowers, because they don't want to get caught snitching on their own teammates, their own coworkers. Basically, they want to be left out of it. Also, there was a recent assassination, a recent Minnesota politician. She was killed when she voted against her party. I wonder if, what was her information? Hold on, let me ask Arthur. Hey, Arthur, I got a question. Who was that Minnesota politician woman that was killed after she voted against her Democrat party and she went against the party lines? What was her name so we can look her up? And tell me about what she voted against.
Son, to summarize the information, Melissa Hortman, a Minnesota Democratic lawmaker, was tragically shot and killed along with her husband in June 2025.
Jesus.
Authorities.
Oh, no, continue.
Certainly, let me continue with the summary. Melissa Hortman was indeed a Minnesota Democratic lawmaker. In June 2025, she and her husband were fatally shot in what was considered a shocking incident. Reports indicated that she had recently voted against her party on a particular legislative measure, which may have drawn some attention, but there is no confirmed evidence that her vote was directly linked to the crime. The case was widely covered in the news due to its tragic nature, but the investigation is ongoing, and no definitive motive has been publicly confirmed as of now. If you need any further details, just let me know.
Who's the person who shot them? Has anybody ever been caught?
So, from the latest information I found, the suspect in the case of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband was indeed apprehended. Authorities identified the individual as Vance Bolter, who was allegedly disguised as a police officer during the incident. Investigators discovered a manifesto and a list of targets in his possession, suggesting a political motive. However, the full details and motive are still under investigation.
So that's why they need whistleblowers in the Democrat Party, because the last time somebody went against the party in Minnesota, well, her and her husband were killed.
So all the numbers that David has are 100% correct, and also they're on the state. Also, they're from the government, from the state. But David told me he knew the numbers, and I said, okay, I'm coming to Minnesota. Let's do this video. Line out some of the daycares you'd like to go see, because I know about the fraud. I knew that the fraud was happening. I just needed somebody like David to come that's lived it, to be able to really solidify my claims and my ideas about the fraud that's happening. And you saw the video; everything we said was true.
And this is David explaining the fraud, right, Rob? This is in front of Minnesota. Go for it.
Fraud is going on here in the state of Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis. Explain to me what's going on with the daycares.
So one of the things that I've noticed is there's an exceptional number of child care centers that are set up mostly in Minneapolis, but also in St. Paul. And I said, wow, how many kids are there in the Twin Cities? Some of them are by my office, and I would watch, and I said, well, there aren't any kids there. And I go to another one, there aren't any kids there. And I'd see just some Somali guys outside smoking cigarettes. So I stopped at one of them and I said, hey, I'm just wondering, I've got a grandson who's looking for childcare, and I wonder if this might be a good facility. And they said, no, we're all full. And they had the door open, and I looked, and there were no kids. There was like a couch and a table with a couple chairs. And I said, well, are the kids out back playing, or what kind of place is this? And the guy said, you go. And he almost pushed me out the door, and then he followed me down the street in my car. And that's when I said, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And that's got to be maybe 5 years ago.
5 years. Think about it. If you were an American and say you said, hey, I got a warehouse and I feed 1,000 homeless people per day. If you were a Somalian, they would never go to inspect your facility or check. But if you're an American, they're going to send undercovers in there to get food and make sure that everybody's head is counted, that you have fire extinguishers, and there's no locks on the doors. But if you're an immigrant or you're an illegal, that all safety and all protocols go out of the window. Who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of saying these people don't get checked or audited and these people do? Who's in charge? It's time for us to stop thinking that everything is already taken care of and we don't have to worry about it. We have to worry about everything. We have to literally go back in line by line and make sure everything is accounted for. We need Doge audits in everything. And we need continuous auditing to go on after to make sure this doesn't start to happen again. He said this is from 5 years ago, 2019 to 2020. And and the same thing's been going on this whole time. Do you know how much money they've been making every year? We're at hundreds of billions.
This fraud is so massive. When the dust settles on this, it's going to be found to be the largest fraud in the history of the country and probably the world. It's that big.
You can
the ones that
Is that true? The genetics is that's genetics right there. Is that mom?
Yes, my mom.
So now good for you. You got great genes. She's very comfortable doing this as well. Very cool. So the largest fraud.
Melania Trump is not illegal. She's literally married to the president. Bro, that's what I mean. Like, you guys, people just make up nonsense and they just say weird shit because they have a lot of mental issues. You don't think about what you're saying because you're not serious. You can't be an illegal when you literally married somebody and gained citizenship. That's not what an illegal is. And a lot of these people, now, say you marry your brother, like Ilhan Omar, the lady you're defending, that, and you become a citizen because you basically defrauded our marriage system. You can be denaturalized. Upwards of 90% of these Somalians that are naturalized, talking about we can't be deported, they can and will be deported because it required fraud for them to gain. They defrauded our system to gain citizenship. The problem is the local state government was supposed to be overseeing a lot of their paperwork and just pushed it through. The Fed can only do so much. The federal government does not have the resources or manpower to individually micromanage each state. Each state is really its own country, and each governor is really the country's president. But if your president is corrupt, then from the top down, there's going to be corruption. There's going to be loopholes. There's going to be fraud. There's going to be fraud as far as money is concerned, as far as citizenship and basically becoming a naturalized. There's going to be fraud across the board. And that's what we're dealing with right now in certain blue states.
In the world, in America, on what he's talking about. I hope you get to the bottom of this. So you and David get linked up, and then you just said, why don't we just go interview? That's kind of how it started.
Yeah, I thought when we go, like, we'll walk these daycares, we'll talk to them. But the first daycare we go to, all the windows are blacked out.
Insane. And sorry, I'm a little under the weather today. My birthday is tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing lives all day, even if I'm a little under the weather. I feel fine. I'm just a little stuffy and congested. So that's why I keep, having to wipe my nose. It's kind of, I wasn't expecting, but it's a little cold here. So.
And I tried to open the door and nobody answered. I ring the doorbell, nobody answered.
Listen, if you have an issue with Melania Trump, why don't you go to a police station today? Make a video of you going to a police station to go file charges against her. Why are you in my thread? Leave your computer or take your computer, take your phone, and go to your local police station and file charges against Melania Trump. Tell them that she's an illegal and see if they'll enforce anything against her. Go take your shot. Why are you in the comments telling us just go do it? Go do your thing. You see how Nick Shirley just went out and did it? You see how I get up and I prepare and I'm just doing it right now? You go do it too and just make a video about how you're filing charges against Melania for being illegal. If you got the proof, if you got the goods, and she wasn't with Trump, she was with, bro, if you got all that evidence, why are you sitting on it? I think you're a part of the scam. If you have the goods on Melania Trump, package it up, go to the police station and go file charges. What are you waiting for?
In that daycare, they had 2 daycares running out of that same building, and they had to do 2 different contracts of more than $1 million for these daycares. And I was very shocked to see that the response from the public after that was, oh, why is he going and knocking on these doors? Because millions of dollars are going there. We have a responsibility to know where our...
Joe, you want the address? Or you want to DM me? You don't gotta, I'll come to you. You don't gotta, you can come see me whenever. We can meet up. I'm with all the business. So you're more than welcome, Joe. I'll give you my email. I'll drop the location and then we'll make a video about it. We'll make it fun.
Dollars are going, but it just went to show that the fraud is insane. And then the people are saying, well, that daycare is closed. Well, how come there's a sign that says it's open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
So the one that the CNN reporter claimed that you came after business hours, that you said you came at 11 to 5 o'clock, they have a sign that says they're open Monday through Sunday.
That one right there, the first part in the video.
Open 7 days a week. What is, zoom in a little bit, Rob? Can you?
Because it's a video, but
Do me a favor. If you guys like the content, if you appreciate my opinions and my views, if you want to hear more, come to YouTube. I'm Rico Limbaugh. Like the page, follow the channel. You're more than welcome to send a donation to the Cash App. I mean, it helps me do the production. I'll go buy a coffee with it or whatever. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And thank you for the other donations. I bought new microphones and I got a slightly better setup. I'm going to start doing new cameras. But again, I'm filming out of my guest room while I'm traveling. So thank you guys for all your support and tuning in. I appreciate you guys all being here as well. Thank you so much. Even the assholes, even Joe, I like you.
it says open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
It says that right on the sign.
Right there. Right
Got
on
it.
the phone number.
This is the Mako, what is it called? Mako Child Care Center?
Yeah.
Is that another misspelled Mako, or is that really the name?
I don't know, but what's funny about that is there's actually 2 childcare companies inside that same building, but they're not showing the second one. And so they have 2 childcare businesses operating that same
Within
room.
the same place.
Yes.
And listen, you guys don't understand. We've seen this all before. It was El Salvadorian and Mexican people running these fronts that were fake businesses, and they were basically doing money laundering for tax purposes. And you were saying this business generates $8,000 to $15,000 per day, but it was closed 7 days a week. We have these shopping centers all over in Arizona, from Phoenix to the border to Tucson, and they're empty shopping plazas, but on paper, they're bustling businesses. We've all seen fraud and money laundering before from different groups. It just behooves us to think that these people are the ones defrauding us. Talk about a course correction. It's like they went from one extreme to the other. They went from flies and camel shit to fucking Ferraris and a unicorn shit. I don't know. It's an extreme. But because we see these videos, it's hard for us to imagine that they could be this fucking clever. But that's what they do. They want you to feel so sorry for them that you will not question their behavior. We've seen other ethnic groups do this. They scam us. They understand that Americans are not just idiots because we're dumb, we're born dumb. It's just that we're so emotional that our emotions override our logical senses. They've actually done studies on this, which is why you can't really, you have to have pragmatic men in charge who are going to stay grounded, who are not going to be swayed by emotional triggers that are going to say, oh, well, I see a little kid crying. Maybe we should torch the Constitution. You can't do that. You're going to have to stay strong. Someone's going to have to make the tough and the hard decisions. And that's what and luckily we have somebody in power now. I just wish he would go a little bit harder. Pause.
How much money are they getting?
This one together over the past few years, they have it right there. But combined, they received over $5 million.
Stop it.
Just that one building alone.
And Joe, since you keep talking about pedophiles, do me a favor and explain to me Senate Bill 145 out of California passed by the Democrats. If you can explain that to me, then I'll agree with you. But if you can't, then you're speaking about yourself.
So what is the business model? Somebody just stays there all day, no kids, and they just take the cash?
Yeah, that's why all the windows are all boarded up, or why they're all blacked out.
Now, let me ask you, Nick, there was a video from 2019. Is it 2019, 2020? You know the video where parents would come, drop off the kids, and then take the kids out a minute later, not even drop them off.
They exactly, RD. They love kids. That's why they didn't necessarily legalize pedophilia. The only thing is you have to do is just decriminalize it, where the waters are so muddy that the police are like, well, the prosecutor's not going to prosecute this, so there's no point in making an arrest. Like, that's what they do. They just muddy the waters and they create so much confusion that the case might just get thrown out. That's how they're able to obfuscate our laws, because of weak people like the ones like the guy in this chat who wants to pretend he hates pedophiles, yet he supports decriminalizing the laws that literally put them in prison. That's why you can't take them seriously.
Wow. Come in, register, then they leave. You know which video I'm talking about, Ron? Yeah. And allegedly, they were getting paid. That's the one right there. What year is that video from?
It says 2015, March 31st of 2015.
This is from 50.
I literally gave him the bill. You know what? We'll go back to Arthur. Let me talk to my co-host. Hello, Mr. Co-host Arthur. Are you there?
Absolutely, I'm here. Feel free to let me know what you'd like to discuss next.
Arthur, can you talk to me about Senate Bill 145 out of California? Tell me about the person who helped push the bill through, and just give me a general basis of who it protects.
Sure. In short, California Senate Bill 145 was primarily pushed forward by Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco. The bill aimed to address what its supporters saw as discriminatory aspects of sex offender registration laws against LGBTQ youth. In essence, the bill allows judges to have discretion over whether certain young adults must register as sex offenders in cases involving consensual activity with minors aged 14 to 17, aligning the law more evenly for different types of sexual acts. In other words, it was intended to create more consistent treatment under the law and to prevent automatic registration in certain cases.
So you're saying that this was a law that was put in place to help not put certain people on the sex offender registry list when they're caught having sex with minors?
Yes, that is correct. In a formal sense, the law was designed to give judges discretion rather than mandating automatic sex offender registration in certain scenarios. Specifically, it aimed to address cases where the age gap was relatively small and the conduct was consensual, realigning the treatment of different types of sexual acts. The intent was to ensure that certain young people wouldn't automatically end up on the sex offender registry if the judge deemed it unnecessary.
So tell me about the man that put it forward. His last name is Wiener. And I think Joe, the guy in the comments, he likes Wiener. So tell us about Wiener. Is Wiener a Democrat or is Scott Wiener a Republican? And if he's a Republican, is he a Trump type of Republican or is he with the Democrats and Newsom?
Certainly. Scott Wiener is indeed a Democratic state senator from California, representing San Francisco. He's been known for advocating a range of progressive policies and is associated with the more liberal wing of the Democratic Party, rather than any Republican or Trump-aligned faction. In short, Senator Wiener has focused on housing reform, LGBTQ rights, and criminal justice issues. His role in SB 145 was part of his broader effort to reform laws that he and others viewed as outdated or unfairly applied. If you need any more details, just let me know.
So a law like that was, so did Scott Wiener say that the current laws on the books were disproportionately affecting members of the LGBT community because they kept having to be registered on a sex offender list? So instead of talking to his community, because he's a part of that community, instead of talking to his community about changing their culture, about targeting kids, he literally put forth legislation to change the law?
In a formal context, yes. Senator Scott Wiener did argue that the existing laws had a disproportionate impact on LGBTQ individuals, particularly in cases involving consensual relationships where the age gap was small. His position was that the law as it stood could lead to unfair outcomes and that judges should have more discretion rather than imposing mandatory registration. In essence, he believed the existing approach could disproportionately affect LGBTQ youth in certain scenarios and that changing the law was a way to address what he and others saw as an inequity. This was a legislative approach to what he framed as a policy problem rather than a matter of changing cultural norms.
You know what? Just for the guy in the thread, let's be a little bit more specific. Are they saying that this law was to protect pedophiles if they were caught with an underage child, but the child identifies as gay as well? Is that what they were doing? Another way that they were trying to protect the gay community? And by muddying the waters, if the kid is gay also, and the person offending them is gay, they didn't want them to have to register on a sex offenders list? Because that seems pretty extreme. But if that's a Democrat policy, then just say so.
So, to be exact and formal about this, the intent of California Senate Bill 145 was not to protect pedophiles. Rather, the stated goal was to ensure that LGBTQ individuals were not disproportionately subjected to automatic sex offender registration in certain consensual scenarios, where there was a small age difference. In other words, the bill was intended to create parity in how the law treated different types of consensual acts, so that LGBTQ youth weren't singled out for harsher treatment simply based on the nature of the act. It was not about shielding offenders from accountability if the situation involved a minor, but about allowing judges to decide on a case-by-case basis, rather than imposing mandatory registration. So to clarify, it wasn't specifically about protecting one community or encouraging any harmful behavior. It was framed by its supporters as an equity issue in the law's application. Of course, it's a complex and controversial topic, and different sides have different perspectives on it.
I mean, I don't know. It's a little, I understand you're trying to be neutral about it, but you know, when you read it earlier, it said a little different. Also, is there there's this mentally handicapped guy in the thread. He told me to ask you about the list of kids Trump paid off in the 90s. Well, is there a list of children that Trump paid off from the 1990s?
To address your questions formally, first, I always aim to present the information in a neutral and factual manner, especially on complex topics. The description of SB 145 is indeed about ensuring equitable treatment under the law, as its supporters find it, and that's the angle I convey. Second, regarding the claim about Donald Trump and the purported list of children from the 1990s, there is no credible evidence or substantiated record of such a list. This appears to be an unfounded accusation with no basis in verified reporting. In other words, there is no known factual support for that claim. If you have any further questions or need more information, just let me know.
Going forward, we're going to ignore that guy, Joe. He is a clown. He lies. And because of that, we're just not going to pay him any attention. His goal is like the others from his background, which is to sow discontent and basically to demoralize not just America, but individual Americans. That's why they troll in these chats and in these conversations. And there are others that share his same mental incapabilities, and they will all kind of huddle together, trauma bond. That's another word for circle jerk. And we would, but we don't need to be a part of that. It's not pertinent to the conversation or to the advancement of the mission to spread awareness of the widespread fraud throughout the Minnesota and the other states, United States, Ohio. We're going to Virginia next. We will shore up these loopholes, which are allowing immigrants, in this case, Somalians, to exploit our kindness as a weakness and to extract our resources. We are going to stop that. But we have to do that by ignoring those of discontent. People can make up and lie about anything and they can waste your time. I just wanted to at least address that publicly because don't forget, I have to clip this video, right? There's probably going to be 50 or more clips that people are going to do about these videos. I have to spread it around. People are going to see it. I'm glad we could talk about these things because I see the same 3 or 4 arguments made by these gay leftists like Joe. And I would rather just address them all at once. So I can just show people that we've already talked about that. And we went through it and we looked at the evidence and there was none there that you were lying. So that's why we took a moment to address those things because they're not very bright people. That's why they make the same 2 or 3 talking points that they got from another gay person of color who's also confused and into children. But then they come back and try to pretend that they're against people that are into children, but they literally support Democrats who make bills to protect people that have sex with children. We just went over that right now. So respectfully, well, disrespectfully to them, but respectfully to the other viewers, the other patriots, those of us who are America first, who are here, I will continue.
That they've been doing this. So this is a surveillance. Maybe you can narrate to the audience what's going on here.
Yeah, so basically what they're doing inside these daycares, I don't doubt that there's 1 or 2 or a few children inside these daycares. It'd be very stupid to be receiving millions of dollars and not bring at least a few kids to daycare every day.
Wait a minute. Are you meaning to tell me that's a black Bentley in front of this daycare? Bro, you talk about a course correction. How do you go from this to a fucking Bentley? I mean, that's insane. Like I'm talking, that is Sally Struthers should be brought up on charges because it's because of her that I think look, I'll put it like this. Sally Struthers walked so that Nick Shirley could run. Sally Struthers walked so that Nick Shirley could run. Sally fucking Struthers played us. Oh my God, bro. All these feed the children. Yeah. And guess what they did with the excess food? They packaged it up and they opened up grocery stores and they sold it and they bought Bentley. This is incredible. That's a Bentley in front of this Leary Center daycare that they were doing surveillance in front of. This is incredible.
Right. But what they're doing here is they're bringing in children and then they're then just leaving after a few minutes of being inside the daycare. And I don't know if this is the same video where it shows the guy giving the cash to the ladies working.
Do you have the audio in there? So there is one that says they're showing that.
Oh, there it is.
Same case.
He's handing
shows a man handing out envelopes of what are believed to be kickback payments to parents who are in on the fraud.
Bro, you talk about grinding. This is the dope game, except there's no drugs. But this is literally more money than the drug game, than the drug business. And we were just watching it happen right beneath our eyes. It's like our priorities were compromised. This is hilarious.
Where was the money going? I don't know exactly where it went, but it.
Order for the scheme to work, the daycare center.
You got to be kidding me. So I'll come in, I register my kids. You're able to write them off to make money off. You send that to the Minnesota government. Hey, I have this many kids. Then they get paid. Then they come and give a kickback to the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We shouldn't help anybody with kids. The only kids we should be helping are American kids. Like just today, last night I was reading this article and they were like, ever since Trump shut down USAID, all these women in Kenya are, I'm like, bruh, there's like 190 other fucking countries. Why are we the only ones responsible for what's going on in Kenya? Kenyans are not Americans. They have nothing to do with America. It's none of our fucking business. There are people sick, bro. People are hungry, bro. I'm hungry right now. So I'm a hungry person in America. Does that count? People are hungry everywhere. That's none of our business. We cannot be focused on trying to save everyone. Let these other countries step up. We're not the only first world country. We're not the only rich country. Everybody else can step up. Besides, they keep telling us that America was built by immigrants. Well, then maybe we should share the wealth. Now that we're not taking in any immigrants, maybe the immigrants can go to Kenya and help them build up their society, since the immigrants what made America great. Now we're going to spread the wealth and they can go make the rest of the world great too. But if they don't, then that means that the magic of America was in the Americans. It wasn't in the immigrants, and it wasn't in these people pretending, oh, we built a country. You didn't build shit. You didn't build shit, because when I look at Africa, you didn't build anything there. So I doubt you were brought over here and built anything. You didn't build shit here either. It's the same. If you didn't do good here, you're not doing good there, and vice versa.
So the problem with this is these parents are no longer going to get payments, and someone's going to call somebody out. And this has been happening for over a decade. It's not like this is a new thing that's happening. How many whistleblowers have been emailing you, DMing you, texting?
Just FYI, they can't release the Epstein files because the Epstein files are the vaccine files. And if you read the Epstein files, you're going to find out that they were working on a bioweapon. That's why Epstein was working with all these labs and these universities on the East Coast, and why he had a full lab, a huge lab on Epstein Island. And the kids they were trafficking there were for experimentation. Only the kids from these other countries were for sex, but this was about creating a bioweapon specifically aimed at a certain group of people, but there were going to be collateral damage, acceptable losses of others, but it was made for particularly one group. If that comes out too soon, they're going to use it and pretend that warp speed was Trump being a part of a depopulation thing. That's why it doesn't make any sense. It's just going to slow down the agenda because it's a lie, and it's just going to slow things down. So the Epstein list will fully come out, and you'll find out about it once 2/3 of the group that they targeted are gone. So look for the full list to be released unredacted by 2028, 2029. Then there won't be anybody left to protest from the group, and that way it'll make sense to release it. Then it can't come out now. We need about 3 more years of the vaccine to run its course in their bodies. It's unfortunate, but at least someone had to tell you.
You getting a hold of you? How many more whistleblowers have gotten a hold of you and David?
Yeah, so many people have been reaching out. It's been almost like overwhelming to go through all the messages. But the people in Minnesota are so fed up with this fraud because.
Don't believe me? Why don't you go online and look up Jeffrey Epstein and scientists, and then look up Jeffrey Epstein and see what schools and which science labs he had his own office in, even after being convicted of sex crimes. I'm telling you the truth. I proved it to you already. I can prove it to you again, but I've done other videos. You guys have to follow my channel and follow my content. I've done deep dives into all of this. I just don't want to focus on, I'm not a one-trick pony. I talk about all types of topics. So I can just, throw that in there for you to go find out for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. Who am I? I'm just some guy with a man bun and a red hat talking into a microphone, saying thank you for giving me $5 to $10 donations on Cash App so I can go to Starbucks and, buy a coffee. I appreciate your support, but I believe that people should go, feed yourself information, because if I'm holding the spoon, well, then you got to worry about if I'm tainting what I'm feeding you. How about you go look it up for yourself? Go look up Jeffrey Epstein and scientists, and how many scientists he employed. And what was he doing? What was their research? Why did he have offices in these universities? What were they studying? It's crazy. No, everyone's worried about sex. Why not ask what was he doing with all the scientists? What were they working on? What were they developing? That's the $1 million. The $1 billion question. But go ahead and figure it out. Go ahead and find out. Come back.
Now, finally, somebody's actually getting it out to the national level, because local journalists have been talking about it for years, but they've never been able to get it out to a national level like I was able to do. And so just the millions of dollars. And if you talk about the
key word is eugenics. Remember, Bill Gates stabbed Epstein in the back and took Epstein's research. That's why the vaccine didn't work. It's not working as fast. It's because Bill Gates took what he thought was all the information, but Jeffrey Epstein didn't give him everything. There are gaps missing. And those gaps is what caused less people to die as fast, which is why their entire agenda went belly up and they said Fauci failed, because Fauci's job was to make sure that it worked on the target demographic, but too many of them have survived. But a lot of them, but also it's not really Fauci's fault. There was a lot of fraud, fake vaccine cards, and nurses that were having dreams of angels speaking to them and telling them to inject people with saline instead. That also disturbed their bottom line. So it's not necessarily all Fauci's fault.
Why they're just giving them cash? It's because the money they receive is tax exempt, CCAP funding, and then these women that are working inside these daycares, they're not.
Yeah, you're talking about Klaus Schwab. Yes, he is the son of a Nazi, and he's already made it clear that the depopulation agenda is here. So the thing is this, right? There's a proxy war going on between the nation of Israel and the Zionists versus the World Economic Forum and the globalists. The globalists are winning, which is why you see the hordes of Islamists and North Africans flooding former Zionist strongholds like New York, like London, like Australia, like France. Those were former Zionist strongholds, and they're now being overran with Islamists. And the globalists have penetrated the cabinets of these countries and made them relax their immigration laws, which is how these invasions have occurred. There is a proxy war between two factions. Now, when the United States attacked Iran on behalf of Israel, that made Israel the envy of the world. The World Economic Forum wants that same control over the United States' arsenal. To do that, they must upend the Zionists and upend Israel, push them out of the way, and they will take their place. That is happening now. Israel is on the ropes. The problem is, as of today, we are Goyim slaves of the Zionists. But once we remove the enemy that we know for the new enemy that we don't know, well, we have to choose. Would you rather be a slave or would you rather be extinct? Would you rather be a slave or would you rather be euthanized? And when you put that in perspective, you can really just spray paint these chains, and you're still alive. At least you're alive with the Zionists. These globalists are planning on depopulating you. There is no. They want to see the human population under 500 million worldwide. So that's what the globalist agenda is, and they're literally replacing the Zionist agenda. Remember, the trans agenda is globalist. The gay agenda is Zionist. They're two opposing agendas. That's why the gays and the trans aren't merging together. They're a part of two separate groups. You just don't know this because I never explained it to you. Now you're going to think about it when you go to bed. You're going to wake up tomorrow, and things that were confusing to you are going to be a little bit more clear.
The assumption is that they're not actually on payroll, and that's why 81% of the Somali population is on welfare inside the state of Minnesota, is because they don't actually receive a W-2 or 1099, whatever it would be, to claim that they're actually receiving an income.
So they're making money hand over fist. They're making money from fraud, and they're giving each other cash. But because they're receiving cash payments, they can apply for government benefits and subsidies. The thing is also about these immigrants, when you come to the United States, you're also, you need a sponsor for a lot of these people. The sponsor signs paperwork stating that once you arrive, you will not apply for welfare, you won't apply for government assistance, etc. They guarantee that you're not going to need it. But because that was never enforced, people were coming here with the sponsor and still applying for government subsidies and welfare. Now the government is sending bills because of Trump. They're sending a bill to the sponsors and saying all these benefits and all the things that the person you sponsored is receiving, you owe us this money and we're coming for it. So that's another way that we're going to start to limit the amount of people that are willing to sponsor these immigrants.
If you're running a daycare of $1 million, you should be able to pay your person a salary of at least $50,000. You know what I mean?
But none of that is documented.
No, not that I know of. Because it doesn't make sense why there's so many people on welfare if they're making millions of dollars.
If you have any questions and you want to support the work, because you have to realize, Nick, you're not part of CBS.
No.
You're not ABC. You're not CNN. You're not Fox. You're not part of anybody. You're an independent journalist. A guy asks you a question, who do you work for? Myself. Yeah, who pays you? Myself. You make money off YouTube, don't you? Yeah, that's how I make my money. I make my money off my YouTube channel. This is what I've been doing for many years. But if some of you guys are watching this and you want to support him, either go buy the sweater that he has here, or number two, connect him if you have any other.
Bro, I'm literally buying that sweater right now today. I cannot wait to wear this when I go to the airport. This is fucking gold. Quality Learning Center. This will go down in history. These people said they have a learning center for children and they couldn't they couldn't even spell, they could not spell learning. And that sign's been up there for years and nobody thought to spell check. Nobody, because for why? It's a scam. It's all fake. Fugazi. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. Look, this has been a great chat. I love talking to you guys. I want to do some more Nick Shirley videos, but I have 8 other topics today, and then I have to throw a New Year's Eve party. And since my birthday is tomorrow, I have a lot of people showing up, and they're going to want to drink, and I don't want to drink too heavy because I want to be coherent tomorrow so I can do more content for you guys so I can entertain you. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. This has been a great conversation. Like and subscribe, share the video. I will see you guys. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.